Welcome to the ylnifarmersmarket Market podcast. On this show, twice a month, we highlight and take a deep dive to get to know one of our 350 vendors of the number one market in the state of Indiana. Here's where we tell the stories that you won't hear anywhere else. I'm Adam Reno from Influencer.tv, and this show is powered by Solar Pros. For more information regarding your roof and a better option to save money on your electric bill, go to the description of this show and click the link for more information. And now, let's start the show. Today we're talking to
Justin Amick, owner of Wake and Bake Bakery here in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Wake and Bake Bakery. So I'll tell you, we have over 30 of these shows now, so I've done a few, right?
Right.
And there's certain names that when I find out what the vendor name is, I'm like, hold on. We kind of have to go into that first before we get into the show.
Right. Yep.
So sorry, you're one of those.
Yep. Nope,
So
I get it a lot, actually.
Okay, so you're kind of used to it, right?
I am, yeah. So we kind of came up with the name when I started the bakery. We started just baking for like friends and family out of the house, and I was working a 60-hour job at the time. So like when I had to get up early to get everything done, so it'd be like really early in the morning, 6 a.m., 5 a.m., 4 a.m. sometimes, when people would have like a 5 dozen cookie order for the day that I have a 12-hour shift. So it kind of started like that, and then at the time I was up in South Bend area, and they're really big with rise and roll. So it's kind of a play on that, and then getting up early. And then when we found out, like, okay, the name, okay, then we're like, okay, we got to explain a little bit, but it still brings smiles to people's faces. So
Absolutely.
That's what we're here for.
Okay. So you mentioned that was South Bend?
South Bend, yep.
Now, are you from South Bend?
So actually I'm down around Muncie, Indiana area.
Okay.
In a small little town called Summitville.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm not too familiar. I wonder how many people listening are
like population familiar. 900.
Okay, like 2 stoplights in the whole place and stuff kind of thing.
A stoplight and a gas station.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a small little country town.
Okay. What high school is there?
Madison Grant.
Okay, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Even coaching high school basketball, I've heard a lot of obscure high schools, and I have not heard of that.
Yep, we're down there.
Okay. So when did you get to Fort Wayne?
I've been in Fort Wayne about 5 years now.
Oh, okay. Not that
Pretty
terribly
new.
long.
Yep.
I mean, you moved and then COVID and then right?
Yep.
So how long have you been into baking?
So I've been baking my whole life. I've learned from like my mother and my grandmother, my grandfather. They've all been, my family's extremely good with baking. That's why I'm fat. That's what I blame it on. It's hard.
Same.
It's hard to self-control when you can bake anything you want at any time. But so like over the years, I've learned family recipes and how to do things, and then I've improved on them. And I've also been in commercial kitchens and worked for other like commercial, like Panda Express and other restaurants. So I've been in the food industry for 15 years now.
Okay.
So I've learned a lot over the time.
Yeah.
Adapt and add it to my repertoire and, go on and have some fun.
So you mentioned growing up, your mom and your grandmother. I'm curious, is there a story that you can share of like looking back where maybe when you were little and you kind of realized like, man, this is, I think I want to do this even when I'm older?
Right. I mean, the love for baking just is in my family. Everybody kind of does it. When we do family get-togethers, my grandmother is one of 12 children.
Wow.
So we have 80 to 90 people at every get-together. So you get a whole display of people.
It's a lot of baking.
Right, yeah. So you make 3 or 4 nice things, and then everybody else does, and you just get to dig in.
Wow.
And my family happened to be really good at sweets. So
what's your address? Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, yeah. So it's just kind of what you know and just in your blood, basically. Yep.
Pick it up. My mom, she'll whip up something. Just, hey, I'm bored, and then I just kind of learned that. And
wow. Now, okay, so I realized the name Wake and Bake maybe when you were younger you didn't know that it was going to be that
Oh,
necessarily, but did you know then that you would be doing what you do now?
Oh no, I went to college for agriculture actually. So
Oh, really?
yeah, like I said, when I started, I was cooking for people at work. I was a manager, and I would take in food all the time, and they're like, "You should sell this." So then I started getting clients like that, and then, yeah, I mean, I always knew the food was good. Nobody's really complained too much about it, but yeah, that's kind of how it started.
So very interesting. This is a really cool story. If you guys like this story, make sure you check out on the YouTube page Ylni Farmers Market, The Bread Guy. Look up that episode. It's very familiar that he worked at like GM or one of those, and he was just making bread and the same kind of thing. And that's crazy to me to think that you're doing something on the side for people, and now all of a sudden, like, oh, that's what I do. Like, that's really interesting to me. So at what point, as you still were working at your job making it for people, you still didn't necessarily think like, oh, well, I'm going to have my own?
Yeah, this was a side hustle all the way. I mean, it's getting more realistic of not a side hustle anymore. We're getting into the point where we're moving out of my personal kitchen into a wholesale kitchen. We're going to start wholesaling like our cake pops throughout Fort Wayne to different bakeries and different cafes.
That's awesome. So walk me through that. How did that kind of get started?
Yeah, so actually being here at the farmers market, I've been doing this for I think 3 years now. This will be my third summer. I had somebody open up a coffee shop, and they're like, "Hey, would you by chance be interested in selling product to us? We don't have we don't have a kitchen. We don't really want to mess with that, but we're interested in selling cake pops, but they're a headache to make," which they are a headache to make.
So of course you didn't say no.
Of course. So I was like, yeah, we can make that happen. Right now we're not a commercial kitchen. I am out of my house, but give me a couple weeks. So here we are now, a couple weeks later, and
very cool.
Yeah, so we're moving full speed ahead.
So let's give a shout out. Is the coffee shop in Fort Wayne?
Yeah, they're not open yet. It is, oh my gosh, I can't think of the name of it right now. It's at Jefferson Point. It's going into where the Good Shop used to be.
Oh yes, got you. Yep. Okay, so
they're gonna have non-alcoholic beverages.
Swizzle.
Yeah, they're gonna have non-alcoholic beverages. A cafe, latte, little lounge area. It's really nice in there so far. They're not quite open yet, I believe.
Yeah, actually, I think they just had a soft open.
Okay.
So technically, they're open. So you guys can check out Swizzle at Jefferson Point, where it used to be the Good Market. Yeah. Good Market, yeah. And because Market was like MRKT or something, right? I remember seeing that. So check out Swizzle at Jefferson Point, and you can get some cake pops. So that's good to know.
Yeah.
Shout out there. Okay, very cool. Okay, you mentioned how difficult they are to make. I'm curious, would you say that is the most difficult out of the items that you have at the market, or is there something even more difficult?
I don't know about difficult. They're very time consuming. So
that kind of makes it difficult.
Yeah, it's a multi-step process because you have to make the cake, make the icing, mix them together, roll them, or portion them out, roll them, dip them, wrap them. Yeah. So, I mean,
the concept is pretty cool. It
sounds very easy
because you're like, oh, it's just a cake pop, but you're
right.
doing individual things, and then you have to wait.
Yeah.
You can't do step 6 without doing the other steps.
Correct.
So you're like, okay, well,
it's like a multi-hour. Yeah.
Sure. Favorite flavor?
Favorite flavor
for cake pop?
So I recently made a red velvet one. Oh, it is so good.
Red velvet's pretty killer in most things. You could say cupcake. You could say like whatever.
Red velvet with the cream cheese inside it, the frosting inside, dipped in white chocolate.
Yeah.
Oh,
anything
so
red velvet, anything cookies and cream. I remember when Hershey Bar came out with a cookies and cream bar. You're like, oh my gosh, what is this? Heaven? Heaven in a wrapper? Like, yeah, totally get that. Okay, Yeah, definitely love Red Velvet. So let's talk through a little bit entrepreneurism. What is one thing that has happened through this process that maybe looking back you would say, sheesh, I did not know that it would be like this? Does anything come to mind?
So one thing I have been fortunate or unfortunate, depending on how you look at it, I've been in the restaurant industry quite a long time. So like I worked as a assistant manager and chef for Panda Express for almost 8 years. So when I was with them, I had the chance to go open new locations.
Okay.
So I was in charge, or I would go and travel and open up, hire the people, order the stuff, get the product, get it. I mean, so they walked me through the different steps to open a restaurant. And then a year or two ago, one of my friends decided to open a restaurant, and I had the chance to go help them and be the manager or one of the managers in charge of getting everything set up and open. So mine's kind of like 3 or 4 or 5 down the road. You know, I've had that privilege to help open, so I kind of know what to do.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not as easy as
Sure. But you did have an edge.
Yeah, a little bit.
You know, on the competition, you could say.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And yeah, that's
and
a
it's
good
all
thing.
learning experience. Even after doing it 3 or 4 times, I'm like, oh crap, where did I order that from?
Yeah, 100%. It's still, you're still learning as you go.
Oh yeah.
No
Learn
matter
something
what.
new every day.
Yeah, of course.
Yep.
So then let me ask you this. What is a piece of advice that you could give someone, not even if they were necessarily in baking, but let's say that they had an idea in general and they said, hey, I know you're an entrepreneur. What advice would you give to someone that tells you that they want to be an entrepreneur?
I think the biggest thing that I've really had to accept myself is listening to others. Even though I think I have a great product sometimes, I'm like, man, that didn't sell. So I've really been big on taking feedback in the last couple of years and really working around, like, not necessarily trying to please everybody, but listening and see if it's something that I can actually do.
Sure.
And most of the time it's little changes and like, oh, we can't have this, or you should probably do that flavor. And I was like, okay. But I mean, persistence is key. If you have something good and even maybe 2 or 3 people love it, but not everybody does, it might catch on. But if you do it every day and keep doing it, you're going to do good eventually.
Yeah.
Don't give up.
Red Velvet, was that someone else's idea that you listened to, or?
So I do Red Velvet cakes and stuff.
So you kind of knew, like, okay,
yeah,
makes sense to do
but
it.
I'm doing a wedding in September, and I was doing a test run for it, and she's like, I want Red Velvet, and I'm like, I can do that. So we did a Red Velvet.
Yeah.
We did chocolate and dipped in chocolate, vanilla dipped in chocolate, a funfetti and white chocolate, a mango dragon fruit with all natural flavors.
Very
that
cool.
one wasn't as good, but it was still good.
Sure. Yeah, I'm sure you have ones that are not so your favorite. Like,
right,
of
right.
course.
Everybody has different taste buds.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, we talked a little bit about entrepreneurism. Let's talk a little bit about the market, actually, the ylnifarmersmarket. Were you, before you said this is now, as we're in the summer now, market, our 20th year outside, it is your 3rd year, right? You said?
Correct. Yep.
Now, before that, I know you'd only been in Fort Wayne very recent up at that point. Were you coming to the market at all? Did you hear about it and you were like a customer, or how did that start?
Yeah, so actually I was we'd moved to Fort Wayne. I had just taken a job as the assistant manager at the Buffalo Wild Wings here. And one of my bartenders was like, hey, I was just at this place. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then they tell me more about it. They're like, yeah, you should start doing something like that. You know, you have all the product you bring in for everybody.
They knew that you had stuff. So
right.
Okay.
And so then I checked it out and I was like, oh yeah, this is doable. And that was kind of like my big all-in point. So shortly after that, I
applied and all the
applied, stepped down from Buffalo Wild Wings and started doing it almost full time.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that bartender created a monster, huh?
Yeah.
Whoopsie.
The monster was already there. She just let it out.
Yeah. So, wow, that's really cool. So what's one thing about the market that you appreciate?
So one thing I like is everybody is inclusive. No matter if it's somebody selling the exact same product as me. Actually, I've become pretty good friends with a lot of the bakers there. Everybody's inclusive. Everybody's willing to help everybody out. You know, if I need to go to the bathroom and I'm the only person at my stand, the person next to me is like, oh, that's fine. Go ahead. We'll watch it. Mm-hmm. And most of the time they sell more stuff than I do when I'm there.
Like, thanks.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I definitely feel that the market has that sense of community for sure. And it's cool to see because you're basically now at this point like a veteran vendor, like, oh, you know, old hat for you. But there are vendors, it is like their first few weeks. Mm-hmm. Like they're just starting. As I said, we started our 20th season, but it's their only second month or, you know, whatever. Right. And they are, you remember your first few times, right? It was a little bit nerve-wracking. You didn't know what to expect. And those people in a short time feel like they are part of the collective, even with vendors who have been there 20 years, right. You know, and that says a lot about, you know, what Ashley has built in her leadership, you know, because 20 years ago, it wasn't as big as what it is now.
Right. I think it was a couple of booths, 2 or 3. Yeah.
Yeah. And just that main awning area, like by the History Center. And now, you know, with the new wing, make sure that you guys know that there's a new wing by Hoppy Gnome that is open now down Barry. That was we were never that far down on Barry. Right. And so there's a whole new wing. I'm saying wing. I mean, it's a street, obviously, but it's closed down. So there's a whole other area when you're going north on Bar to Barry, you normally could just turn right and that's it. Now you can go left down where Hoppy Gnome is. And there's a good 20 vendors there now. And half of them are new and they're just ready to go. It's awesome that we're expanding and all that. In the footprint of the market, I'm curious, do you have a spot that you normally are, or do you kind of move around a little bit?
So during the summer market, I do have a spot. I'm right in front of the historical building.
Okay.
Right next to Fan Gear, right around the corner from the YNLI tent.
Okay, yep. So very close to where the main tent is. And shout out to Corey, right? Yep. Because also he had a prior episode with us as well, so check out Corey's episode. But Fan Gear is where you can find Wake and Bake, right?
Correct.
Okay,
yes.
Cool. Okay, so we talked about entrepreneurism, we talked about the market. You carry also a different kind of perspective because you're not necessarily from Fort Wayne. What is something about the city? We talked about the market, but the city itself, what is something positive that you enjoy about being in Fort Wayne?
So one thing I do really like about Fort Wayne is it's starting to kind of get back to Fort Wayne. You don't see a lot of big box stores opening up. You see more mom and pop shops opening up. You see more main streets coming back. You see like downtown is really building up. So I've lived in a couple of bigger cities throughout my journey here on this earth.
Yeah,
like Cincinnati and stuff like that. You don't see the downtown areas coming back. You see them getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
But here in Fort Wayne, you see downtown coming back, but everything else is kind of just like standing still, which is really nice to see, especially as a small business entrepreneur, you know.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. You do think of bigger cities, and I'm from originally the San Francisco area, and all my friends and family back there say that San Francisco it was such a beautiful city, and it's just going down, you know, and Fort Wayne is not on the downward slope at all. It is skyrocketing.
Yeah.
I mean, at an upward level that is insane, and it's awesome.
Right.
So that's a good point.
I like how it's staying small. It's not going to like the big corporates. You're not seeing a lot more you're seeing stuff like Red Lobster close.
Right. Chili's is gone.
Right.
And but these other mom and pops that you're saying those are opening, and like, yeah, we want that for sure. Support local 100%. So, okay. Last question. I ask everyone this question. Let's say we have a newly appointed mayor. Let's pretend that she has tasked you with a sign. You're going to make a sign that is going to go up above the AEP building, or a plane is going to like fly it, so everyone can see. The point is, all of Fort Wayne will see this sign. What does it say?
Smile all, or smile on, and just keep smiling, be kind to everybody.
Love it.
Yeah.
I could see when you say that, I want to see now a smiley, like what can you make like with a smiley face, or like something like that.
I mean, my mission is to make people smile one sweet treat at a time. So,
love it.
Keep on smiling, be kind to everybody. You don't know what they're going through.
Right. Yeah. Love that. So, Wake and Bake, check out Wake and Bake every Saturday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and check us out at the ylni Farmers Market as we are in our 20th season. Thanks for hanging.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the ylni Farmers Market podcast. Remember, the most fun way to watch is on YouTube. Be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on your notification bell so that you can be notified when new episodes drop. A big special thanks to our sponsors, the Solar Brothers. For more information on how you can save money on your energy bill, give them a call at 833-765-2276. Also, 260 Roofing for a free estimate on your roof. Call them at area code 260-800-3031. Remember, for more information on the ylni Farmers Market, you can always follow us on our Instagram and Facebook page at ylni Farmers Market. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.